Good afternoon, YouTube. It's your man, All the Rage George Page, coming to you live on YouTube. Well, I saw this earlier this morning, but I was working on some stuff, and I decided to go ahead and do a video about this. And this is the sad news, and I dedicate to my brothers and my sisters, who are a fan of wrestling. And that's Reef the Watcher, Eche Gucci 23, and Miss Fishiana from the Liquor Spot. Anyway. This is the passing of another legend from the world of professional wrestling. And this man is, a lot of people who, like you, if you grew up in the good part of the 80s to the 90s, you wouldn't know this gentleman as much. I grew up watching him as a kid. And back in those days, it was hard for a lot of, black wrestlers to get to a level of success. As you know, especially if you're wrestling out of certain organizations, especially in the South or some other organizations where black wrestlers didn't get the big push compared to their white counterparts. This gentleman right here is one Mr. Bruce Franklin Reed, aka Butch Reed, aka Hacksaw Butch Reed, aka the Natural Butch Reed. And he was one of those guys that you remember, he was just an amazing wrestler. Just put on some great promos back in the day. He was just one of those guys that you can never forget. Now, Butch, like so many pro wrestlers, started his career off in football. He played for the Kansas City Chiefs for quite a few years, and then he started professional wrestling around '78. And then he got the moniker Butch Reed, and he wrestled for many organizations, but notably he wrestled for NWA. If you remember, NWA was the Southern organization ran by the Crockett family, and one of the biggest stars at the time was Ric Flair. He had a rivalry with Ric Flair. Now, Butch also wrestled for quite other different organizations. He held some titles here and there. And, he also was part of a tag team for a time. And for a while, he wrestled for WWF, not WE, WF, for a little bit. And he was called the Natural Butch Reed. And that was for around about the good part of the 80s. But then he went back to WCW and he teamed up with Ron Simmons, and they became Doom. Now, the original was managed by a woman who was the wife of Chris Benoit, but then when they got with Teddy Long, they became champions. And they were before Harlem Heat. They were the first black tag team champions. People like forget that. But, eventually they broke apart, and, eventually Ron Simmons became the World Heavyweight Champion, beat Ric Flair. And then, he had his rivalry with Ric Flair, the Junkyard Dog, and also the superstar Billy Graham. I used to remember superstar Billy Graham. And there was that time when he had a rivalry with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and they were fighting for the name of Hacksaw. So Duggan won, and then Butch became a villain. He back for he was sometimes a villain, sometimes a big face. Most time he was known as a heel. But for that time he was a heel when he was wrestling with WWE. No, sorry, WWF, and he was with his manager Slick, and he also had rivalries with Coco Beware back in those days. But like I said, he was even after he left wrestling, he was still with the fans. He often do some of the fan when you do wrestling fans seminars every now and then, and it's just he still had a lot of great fans, a strong following. But it was just sad to hear that he passed away because he had a couple of issues with his heart complications. He had had a massive heart attack, and that was how he passed away. And it's just sad to hear that this man passed away. He was only 66 years old, and he lived just a silent life. From traveling with some of the best and legendary wrestlers of his times to being a champion in different organizations, a tag team champion, and just he did so much in his life. So it's just remembering some of these guys are just as a kid watching these guys doing what they did was just so exciting, and he was one of those guys that was just exciting to watch. So let's all remember Bruce Franklin Reed, better known as Butch Reed. Rest in peace, sir, and we all miss you. It's your man, Ray George Page. Don't subscribe. I'm out.